Ralph, I could add that floating breakwaters have limited lives and they usually end up on the beach during extreme events.
Yeah, Jeff's the marine engineer. So yeah, I thought that too. It's maybe a temporary thing, but
yeah. One example is the one that's taken a beating down at Blairgowrie Harbour. The wave periods are a bit longer there, and the waves end up going through, and you've got all this motion and movement, and it's just supposed to be a stable structure, but over time it takes a hell of a beating.
I know there's a system that the surfing industry are using. There's a barge that actually makes the sand fill those weather that we've seen around here, fill them up and submerge them rather than leave them as we have at the boat ramp, exposed, actually put them below the water.
There's one on the Gold Coast at Main Beach, and that was an interesting one because it did bring the fish around, but the fishermen dropped their anchors and split the bag. So that had difficulties, but in principle there's it's a possibility.
Neil?
At one stage you were talking about putting in a lightweight line. You've gone away from that? I have gone away from that. Yeah, I've gone away from that because of the success that we've had by just putting sand there. And it's that sand's a lot more usable for people who frequent that beach than Groin, and I don't think it's needed. Okay. Which Groin is that? Is that the east-west Groin? Where the yellow is, that's the central Groin. That's the central Groin.
Ben?
Is Bishanella doing anything with Air Foreshore? Are you in charge of that, or haven't you?
That's sort of outside the scope of that discussion.
Just briefly, they are. We're not, but we will be.
So do you mind?
They're creating an access point there, quite an expensive boardwalk coming down from the Foreshore Reserve. We've been advising on how it should be built, what materials should be used, where it should go, and its interface with the beach, and then fencing off that area because there's some native remnant veg at the lower slope. So finally, they're doing all those works, and they'll have to manage that for a minimum of 2 years, and then be handed to council.
Yeah, that's certainly something on our community association that we've had issue with. You know, developers seem to have all the control and say about the foreshore, which affects us all. That it should be something that maybe we and you and others have a bit more input in and have a say in that development, because it seems to come to us as an end result. So, good question there.
I think a fair comment there is it probably was part of their documentation.
Yes, as were the trees and vegetation. We had issues. The trees have just disappeared, you know, that was an issue. So, any more questions? Yep, sorry.
Just moving on from where the port is there towards the end of Clifton Point Road and then on through to Scarborough Creek. What's your assessment of the foreshore and the cliff erosion along that area?
I think that section of the coast has already done what we're trying to do at Beacon Point. It's laid back to a point where you're probably still getting erosion in the gullies, but you're not getting topples or even recession. I know the Beacon Point Reserve Master Plan has been exhibited and has been, I think it's been in front of council. There was a proposal, or part of that plan was to investigate an access point. Probably the most obvious access point is down at Scarborough Creek where the goat track currently exists, but it's probably one of the most dangerous and probably one of the most expensive access points, and I believe that in one of those gullies, just back from there might be a better alternative.
I don't think the plan covers the actual beach area.
No, it doesn't. It covers the reserve. However, it does make reference that an access point should be investigated in the future.
Yes.
That's Beacon Point Creek was pretty stable for the last 15 to 20 years. The last 12 months has started to erode.
Has it?
There's been a lot of water coming off the development, so I've noticed.
I'm wondering how much was even going to channel.
Well, I've always had that question.
Influences it. We've had a water level rise there. But yeah, the wave action.
Pressure.
Yep.
Yeah, a couple of
the Roob thing, is there any rocks, hard rock?
Yeah.
I carefully observed when they constructed that second one down, constant dumping of rocks on the top of that, just in case that second hand can be there. I was wondering what damage that would have done and what damage to do in bringing the new rocks. Just the dumping of hard rocks from trucks onto the grass strip there.
Up on top.
Yeah.
Sort of compaction, is it? Maybe. Is that something you need?
Certainly from my place, it was just a box of road from the attraction you're in the house and you could feel it shaking.
That's a good point, because there was, from what I mean, it was before my time, but it was a massive amount of,
I think it was maybe 18 months worth of.
yeah, but there was quite a lot of stockpiling done there as well.
Yeah. So I know what's happened in the past, and in the past, the project can be off on it. So if it is damaging, you can another way of
What we did at the other end, we actually backed the tippers.
Yeah. I noticed at Port Arlington they went right down to the Foreshore.
We actually just
below them.
We just backed the tippers down the access track at the other end when we put some rock in there, and
that might be something as a local when they start, or you see it, just go and see
we've got a
it.
stockpile up there now. Not huge, but
We did make several suggestions on the council internet site, but the response is very well visible and damage.
I still think it's worth taking on board that we don't leave a massive rock pile sitting there on this wait for too long.
Well, the effect of holding a cliff back can do the opposite too. You talk about the weight of water. Any more questions, please?
Yes, I may have something of a difficulty here in this very time. I don't think any reference was made to what assumptions City of Greater Geelong might be working under in respect to the future sea level rise. So I wonder if you can answer that question. And if I could also mention, I was confused earlier, you referred up on the screen to something to do with Lewis Road. Then you spoke about Lewis Beach. I presume you're referring to Hermsley Road as Lewis Road, when you talk.
You're correct.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Okay.
Then Lewis Road is up until Port Arlington Road, then it becomes Hermsley.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I was talking about between Port Arlington and Williamsburg Roads originally when you talk about.
There's a bit of confusion about Lewis now with the new.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
In terms of establishing new infrastructure on the coast, as part of the consent that's issued from DPI, we are required, the engineers are required to take into account sea level rise for those structures. In terms of further erosion on the coast,
what level of sea level rise are you taking into account? That's what I'm interested in.
Point 8.
Sally,
I could answer that.
oh, sorry, Jeff.
The groin that's proposed there is designed for 2070.
I'm sorry,
The groin is designed for a 50-year design life, and that includes an allowance of 0.4 of a metre to take us through to 2070.
0.4 metre.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. And that includes, because you've got increased water level, you've got increased wave heights, and the crest height of the proposed groin is well above the crest height of the existing groin, which tends to disappear in the water as it heads offshore and suffers a lot of damage. So this groin will be well above the high water mark, plus 2.8 chart datum.
Thanks, Jeff. Somebody hasn't asked the question first. Neil, sir. Yep.
Just walking westward,
Yes.
go down to Griggs Creek.
Yes.
There seems to be a massive amount of storm water coming down that creek, and lately, if you walk along the beach, it's just totally eroded and down to sand, and you can't pass. When it's not raining, of course, it's just a trickle, but after a long storm of water, it's impassable.
It's quicksand, isn't it?
Exactly.
Well, no, you can't. Drain isn't the answer. I suppose it's another consequence of lots of building and hard surfaces, runoff, and that creek area is